Hello, Scorpio. Thank you very much for tuning into this week's read. For the main part of the read, I'm using the Morgan Greer Tarot, Supportive Oracle Cards, Magical Spell Cards by Lucy Cavendish. Apologize for the coffee. It's just finishing up. Sorry about that. It's kind of feeling it for your reading, so I didn't want to hold off any longer. Okay. So, I don't usually do reversals because it's easier for people to follow when they're right side up. But you have one card that insisted on being upside down, but it's a good card to have upside down. So I'm getting to, you have like a block that's coming up that's being lifted. So this might be very good. Starting off, you have fertility with the romance card, which is telling me it doesn't have to be like romantic, like partner. You know what I mean? Like, skipping into tulips or whatever you want to talk about. But this could be, when romance comes in, especially in a general read, it means it's somebody that, like, when they're around, you're just so happy that they're there. This could be a sibling, a friend, a coworker that just, like, when they're there and you're dealing with them, you feel great being around them, you love being around them. Like, I have people this comes up with that has nothing to do with sex. I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be. When I'm getting fertility with the romance card, you're having a bunch of ideas, like you want to do things with this person, and you're like, you know what, I love being around them, we should do this, we should do that, let's do this, let's do that. Seems cool, seems sane, makes sense, all good. So you're bringing forth these ideas, and you're hashing them out with this person. They're not really stable to start, they're just a lot of ideas. A lot of ideas, a lot of possibilities, a lot of thoughts. It's all good, nothing bad. Nothing bad at this point. I don't even know if we're going to have anything bad, but I'm just wondering if we can really make something happen here. Because whoever you're dealing with, they seem to have, things going on, and they want to link up, but I'm not sure if it will link up. So we're just talking about ideas and what we can move forward with and doing the legwork. The Queen of Wands coming in with the Seven of Cups is like actively trying to make something happen. Looking at all the possibilities and actively looking like which one of these is actually the most possible, and out of this group of things that are most possible, what do we actually want to do? Putting in a lot of effort with that. A block is lifted. This is where the block is lifted. This is the card that insisted on coming out upside down, which is actually good. A block is lifted. Whatever was keeping the two of you from, or it could be a group of people, that from doing whatever you wanted to do, that block is lifted. Like the door is open. You can do what you want. You just now have to make the choice. And I'm getting with the Ten of Wands and the safe travel is like, you can make this happen. The block is lifted. But if you choose to do this, it's going to limit something else. It's not so much about what you want more. It's not that. It's about what you feel you should be taking care of. Because it's kind of like you have other things around you that you already deal with and you already take care of. And some of this is like, yeah, I should be pushing some of this responsibility off to other people anyway. I should make this their issue and not my issue. I should step back on a couple of these things. But at the same time, you're like, if I do that, it could go a little bad. And it's kind of like once I step away, not only could it go bad, but it might be hard to get a hold of it again. It's kind of like if you hand somebody else the balloon, like you give them the string, if they let go of that, you might just have to get another balloon or find another thing to do. It's kind of like that's how it feels. Like if I give this to somebody else, it might, I don't know if I can get back control of it if they can't handle it. And it's not like you don't trust the people. It's just kind of like, I don't know if they can. Not like you don't trust somebody to try, you just don't know if they can really hold on to it. You're kind of like, I don't know. So there's kind of like this balance, like I have to kind of push off some responsibilities, I can make this happen, but like, do I feel like this is an okay thing for me to do? Justice with the Ace of Swords comes in from the other side. Whoever you've been talking about or talking with and what you want to do stuff with, they're like, yeah, let's do it. And they're moving ahead with it real quickly. they're kind of like, yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make this go forward. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. When they keep moving forward, it kind of puts you in kind of a bind. You're kind of like, oh, all right, well, I do want to do that. I'm going to have to now move off some of these other responsibilities. I'm going to have to do that, which I do feel like is a good thing. It's kind of like this is the time for that to happen. So this is a good thing. It just feels like it makes you uncomfortable, kind of like I have a lot of value in the things I keep going. I don't really like to take chances with certain things, but I do realize it's healthier if I let some of this go. So you got harvest here. But when I'm feeling harvest, it's kind of like, all right, you've done your best. And now we're trying, it's kind of like the harvest is kind of like you've done all the work. You planted things, you grew them, you tended to them, you watered them. Now it's time to see what you actually got out of the situation. So it's kind of like you did what you could with the situation. Now you're handing it over to somebody else. This is the harvest. Kind of like, how well did I do? Is this going to really yield the fruit that I wanted it to? Is this fruit the quality I'm looking for? Or when I finally get to it, is it just like, it's just not what I wanted anyway? Organization is here as well. The person you're handing this off to, there is a feeling of static in the sense of like not very movable. It's just kind of like it is what it is, and that's where we keep it. And you've set it up, and you've created the mold. And it's kind of like some of this situation needs to be a little bit more flexible. And this person you're handing it over to does not feel flexible, at least not nearly as flexible as you are. But you're also realizing this is part of the evolution of this situation. You got to let this person do what they need to do. This might work out better than you think. You trust them to keep to the rules, whatever those rules are. I'm doing this, I'm noticing. It makes me uncomfortable, kind of like I don't like really. For you, working directly with this person you're handing it off to, it's kind of like you think of them as kind of a challenge because you feel like they're very regimented, like they do it the same way. They get very boring. To you, they get very boring. I think that's what we're talking about with organization. You're not worried about like them making sure everything gets done, because they will. They'll make sure everything gets done. But you're just kind of like, it might get really, really boring. Yeah, this does give you a stable spot. I feel like you hand this over because it's time to. And you're kind of like, all right, we're going to have to see how it goes. Maybe this is for the better. I don't know, but it's time to let it go. 10 of Pentacles is telling me it's a very solid choice. It does work out is what I'm getting. I feel like it's just kind of like you're not really sure that you like handing it off the way you are. The Death card with the Inspiration card, Isis Inspiration comes in. Which tells me you've made an impact and you've made it a point. If for some reason, this person who's usually not very flexible, there are like a few little things that they'll be flexible with. Like, if, for example, if we were talking about a car and you're just like, every time you need to have a certain type of car, they'll be like, well, all right, as long as it's an SUV and it's a cool tone color, a little bit darker. So like, it can be blue, green, maybe black, gray, but they also have, but even if it's gray, it has to be a darker gray, darker green, darker blue. Like, that's their version of flexibility. Maybe it doesn't have to be this manufacturer, but it has to be one of these 5 that I trust, and it has to be an SUV, it has to be a darker color, either it has to be cool toned, like either green, blue, gray, black, but it has to be dark, cool tone. If it fits those parameters, that's their version of flexibility. And your version of flexibility would more be like, what do we need it for? As long as it can fit everybody and all the stuff we need, and I don't really care about the color, and as long as it's dependable, I don't really care about the manufacturer, as long as you know that manufacturer is good or that car has a lot of good history, I don't really care. So like, you're more flexible, like I don't care about the color and all that other stuff. So that's the difference, but they're flexible in their version of flexibility. You know what I mean? You're like, it doesn't even have to be an SUV. It can be a truck with a large cab. You don't care. It can be a really big, roomy car, like an Element. You don't really care. Doesn't really. Maybe that's an SUV anyway. I'm thinking of it. You don't really care. As long as it fits everything and everybody can get in the car and take all their stuff, you don't really care. But they're like, no, it has to be an SUV, and this is why, and this is blah, blah, blah. I feel like you could go back and forth all day with this person about their version of flexibility versus yours. I don't think it would go anywhere, but you could if you wanted to. Because I feel like every now and then you put in your 2 cents with this person, and you might have weird conversations like that. Like they think they're being flexible, and you're like, well, you could be a little bit more and get something better. And they're already like, no, I am being flexible. And you're like, well, not really, but okay. To you, it's not really that flexible. To them, it is. And because I'm getting, as it keeps going forward, you got the Magician with the 5 of Swords between the two of you. I feel like you don't completely let go of whatever you're letting go of. A new situation has opened for you, a new situation that you love, but I don't feel like you're completely letting go of this old situation. It's kind of like if you were doing 90% of the situation before, you're maybe down to 15 to 10, 20, but you're bouncing between 10 and 20%. You're like bouncing back and forth. You're giving your 2 cents, you're keeping your eye on it, you're saying what you think is right. You know, you're trying to help the situation to keep it going. I'm also getting like whoever this other person is, it's kind of like it might be a waste of your time in the sense of like trying to change something, but it might be worth your time because this other person tries to keep being flexible within their own standard. You might not see the effect you're really having, but you're keeping them flexible enough so the situation survives. So you are having a good effect. I just feel like you're looking at it like I don't think I'm having any effect, but the other person realizes they have to stay flexibility to a point. They just have their own version of flexibility. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, they're going to make a pasta dish, and they're like, well, as long as it's a noodle that looks like spaghetti, so get a fettuccine, angel hair, or actual spaghetti, that's the flexibility I'll have with that. And you're like, how about rigatoni? And they're like, nope, that's not the type of noodle I'm looking for. And you're like, well, it's pasta. Who really cares? As long as it's pasta, why does it matter? Because it has to be one of these noodles. I'll be flexible within that. And I feel like they keep doing that to you, and you're just kind of like, for the love of Pete. But it's enough. I swear it's enough. It's enough. I don't know why we're having these fun analogies, but to me they're funny. They're kind of funny. But I don't know. As we keep going forward, are you disappearing from this situation? I don't think so. I think you're going to get this person involved in other things. I like this. This is very interesting. This person who you've handed this off to, and they're handling the majority of whatever that thing is, right? You're down to 10 to 20% of like putting in your 2 cents, but they have the final say in whatever they're doing. You've handed it over to them. You want to kind of get more on their good side, or you want to understand them more, or something. You're trying to pull them into something else with you. So there's something else that you're doing going forward, and you're pulling them in with you. Strength with new beginnings is like, it's kind of like, you know, if I can kind of get on this person's good side, or kind of like try to understand how they think, maybe I can make more headway with them to make more headway with that situation. You seem to be like, let me pull them into this situation. Because you do like them. It's not like you dislike them. It's just the way they do it. It just may seem a little bit rigid to you. But you do like them, and you do trust them to do the best they can do. So you're pulling them into something else. When this happens, they like that. They feel valued by you. This really does open them up to consider your opinion more. Because when you pull them in and pull them into another project or whatever you're doing, they've got the peace with the beauty. It's kind of like they're feeling more valued by you, very much more valued. And it's bringing like an air of peace, like, you know, they don't feel like they're constantly fighting you. They just feel like you have a difference of opinion. So that's another thing to remember. They don't feel like they're fighting you. They feel like you just have a different opinion, and they just kind of take that into account. As it keeps coming forward, I feel like you're trying to have an effect with this person. You got the High Priestess on your side coming in. There's things that you find really kind of rigid for them, and it's very limiting, and it sometimes is a little bit suffocating to deal with them, because the way you work, the way they work, it just feels rigid. It can feel a little suffocating, but you're like, I need to stay in good connection with them. I need to keep in connection with them so they can see this is why I do things this way, and I try to keep influencing them to be a little bit more flexible. You are having an effect. I just feel like your version of flexible and their version of flexible completely different, but it is keeping them in that mindset. they do like, they're going with it. They feel like they're doing well. They are taking your influence to heart. They're listening to what you're saying. They feel like they're passing it on. They feel like they're being flexible. Keep that in mind. They feel like they're being flexible. I feel like to you, though, you're like, I don't know. Between the two of you, it seems like it goes well. I do feel like between the two of you, it's like it's keeping this air of peace. You are having an effect. But I also feel like between the two of you, the other person would like you to be a little bit more regimented. But it's interesting because it's kind of like on the same token. You're like, I get things done. I get things taken care of. Like, I make sure everything gets done. Maybe not in the same order every time, but I do them, everything that needs to get done does get done. It's funny because they don't see you as very regimented, even though you do get everything done you need to get done. So, not for nothing. You and this person, good people. Totally different ways of life. I feel like you being closer together, I do feel like that's very good. I feel like that's a very good energy, whoever this person is at the end. I just feel like it's just remembering. They do things their way, and that's going to work out well. You do things your way. It works out really well. I just feel like what this whole reading is about is like, when you start getting frustrated, like you don't think you're having an effect, they're trying to say you are having an effect. And just to bring it back and just kind of like realize, look at, even though you don't think they're really doing much that's flexible, they do. Just step back and let it be and just breathe and go into something else for a while and then return to it. And then they're just reminding you are having an effect. You are making a good difference here. It just may not be as much as you want, but you are having a good effect. Anything else I should say with that? No. Okay. I'm going to shut that down there. Thank you for watching. I hope that helps. If you'd like a direct reading from me, shoot me an email, jamesforastral@gmail.com. That's James, the number 4, astral@gmail.com. Thank you.